The hotel room was spinning, or maybe it was just her heart racing so fast that the entire world seemed to tilt on its axis. Maya's back pressed against the cool mahogany door, her breath coming in short, desperate gasps as Daniel's hands framed her face, his thumbs tracing the curve of her cheekbones with a tenderness that contradicted the raw hunger in his eyes. "Tell me to stop," he whispered, his forehead resting against hers, his breath warm against her lips. "Tell me this is crazy, and I'll walk away right now." But Maya couldn't. God help her, she couldn't find a single word to make him leave. Not when every nerve ending in her body was screaming for his touch. Not when she'd spent the entire evening drowning in those storm-gray eyes, wondering what it would feel like to just let go. "Don't stop," she breathed, and those two words shattered whatever restraint he'd been holding on to. His mouth claimed hers with a passion that stole the breath from her lungs. His hands slid down her sides, fingers tracing the curve of her waist through the thin fabric of her dress. That emerald green dress she'd borrowed from her roommate, the one she'd never planned to wear, the one that had somehow led her here, to this moment, to this man who was making her forget every rule she'd ever made for herself. Maya's fingers tangled in his hair as he lifted her, her legs wrapping around his waist as he carried her deeper into the suite. The city lights of Lagos sparkled through the floor-to-ceiling windows, 1,000 stories unfolding below, while theirs was just beginning. "You're trembling," Daniel murmured against her neck, his lips trailing fire down her throat. "I've never." Maya started, then stopped, embarrassment flooding through her. He pulled back, his eyes searching hers with an intensity that made her feel naked in ways that had nothing to do with clothing. "Never what?" "Done anything like this," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. I don't do one-night stands. I don't even know your last name." Something flickered across his face, surprise maybe, or something deeper. His hands gentled on her, and he slowly lowered her feet back to the ground, though he didn't step away. Instead, he cupped her face again, forcing her to meet his gaze. "Daniel Morrison," he said softly. "My name is Daniel Morrison. I'm 32 years old. I hate olives. I have a scar on my left shoulder from a motorcycle accident when I was 19, and right now, in this moment, I can't remember ever wanting anything as much as I want you." His honesty disarmed her, and Maya felt tears prickling at the corners of her eyes. Maya Thompson. I'm 26. I work as a graphic designer at a small advertising firm. I've never been to a place like this before tonight, and I'm terrified that tomorrow morning I'm going to wake up and realize I've made the biggest mistake of my life. Or, Daniel said, his thumb brushing away a tear that had escaped down her cheek, you'll wake up and realize you've finally done something just for yourself. Something that makes you feel alive. And God, he was right. She did feel alive. More alive than she'd felt in years. Welcome back to African Love Chronicles, your favorite place for stories soaked in passion and soul-deep romance. If you're new here, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment to tell us your favorite part of the story. Your support keeps these love tales flowing strong. Thanks for always supporting us. Now, grab your popcorn and let's dive in. Maya stared at the rejection email on her screen, reading it for the 5th time as if the words might somehow change. Dear Ms. Thompson, thank you for your interest in the senior design position. While your portfolio shows promise, we have decided to move forward with other candidates whose experience more closely aligns with our current needs. The same polite rejection she'd received 17 times in the past 3 months. Different companies, different positions, same crushing disappointment. Another one? Maya looked up to find her roommate, Zara, leaning against the doorframe of their tiny shared apartment in Acadia, sympathy written all over her face. They said my portfolio shows promise, Maya said, her voice flat. Like I'm some fresh graduate instead of someone who's been working in this industry for 4 years. Zara crossed the room and squeezed Maya's shoulder. Their loss. Seriously. You're the most talented designer I know. Talent doesn't pay the rent, Maya muttered, glancing at the stack of bills on her desk. Her mother's medical bills. Her younger brother's school fees. The rent that was already 2 weeks overdue. The weight of it all pressed down on her shoulders like a physical thing. I have an idea, Zara said suddenly, her eyes lighting up with that mischievous glint that usually preceded something either brilliant or disastrous. Remember I told you about that charity gala my company is hosting? The one at the Eco Hotel. Maya nodded warily. Zara worked as an event coordinator for one of Lagos's premier event planning companies, and she was always trying to drag Maya to fancy parties that made her feel like a fish out of water. There's going to be a silent auction for a collaboration with several major companies, including Morrison Tech Industries. They're looking for designers for a major rebranding project. The budget is apparently insane. If you could just get in front of the right people, show them your portfolio. Zara, I can't afford a ticket to something like that, Maya interrupted. I have an extra ticket, Zara said quickly. One of the volunteers canceled last minute. Please, Maya. What do you have to lose? Everything, Maya thought. She had everything to lose. Going to events like that, surrounded by Lagos's elite, always made her feel like an imposter. But as she looked at those bills again, at the email rejection still glowing on her screen, she realized Zara was right. What did she have to lose? Okay, she heard herself say. I'll go. Zara squealed and threw her arms around Maya. Yes. Oh my God, this is going to be amazing. You're going to wow them all. I can feel it. Maya wished she shared her friend's confidence. The night of the gala, Maya stood in front of the mirror, barely recognizing herself. Zara had insisted on doing her makeup and hair, transforming her usual casual look into something sleek and sophisticated. The emerald green dress hugged her curves in a way that made her self-conscious and powerful all at once. You look absolutely stunning, Zara breathed. Like seriously, if I were into women, I'd be all over you right now. Maya laughed despite her nerves. That's comforting and disturbing at the same time. That's my specialty, Zara grinned. Now remember, don't sell yourself short tonight. You're not just a struggling designer. You're a talented artist who's going to revolutionize someone's brand. Confidence, babe. Fake it till you make it. The Eco Hotel was even more intimidating than Maya had imagined. Crystal chandeliers dripped from the ceiling like frozen waterfalls. Women in designer gowns that probably cost more than Maya's yearly salary glided across marble floors. Men in tailored suits discussed business deals worth millions as casually as Maya discussed what to have for dinner. She felt the familiar panic rising in her chest, the voice in her head screaming that she didn't belong here, that everyone could see she was just pretending to be someone she wasn't. Champagne. A waiter appeared at her elbow with a tray of sparkling flutes. Maya grabbed one gratefully, taking a larger sip than was probably elegant. The bubbles tickled her nose, and the alcohol provided a warm courage that spread through her chest. She could do this. She had her portfolio on a USB drive in her clutch. All she needed was one conversation, one chance to show what she could do. Maya spent the next hour circulating through the room, trying to gather the courage to approach someone, anyone, connected to Morrison Tech. But every time she got close, her nerve failed her. These people spoke a language she didn't understand, threw around names and numbers that made her head spin. She was about to give up, to tell Zara this had been a terrible idea, when she saw him. He stood near the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Lagos skyline, slightly apart from the crowd. While everyone else was clustered in groups, laughing too loudly, trying too hard, he seemed content in his solitude. There was something about the way he held himself, confident but not arrogant, present but somehow distant, that drew her attention. And God, he was beautiful. Tall, with dark hair that looked like he'd run his hands through it one too many times. Sharp jawline. Broad shoulders that filled out his navy suit in a way that should be illegal. But it was his eyes that held her captive, storm gray, intense, with a depth that suggested he was thinking about things far beyond this glittering party. As if sensing her stare, he looked up, and their eyes met across the room. Maya's heart stuttered. She should look away. Should stop staring like some starstruck teenager. But she couldn't. There was something in his gaze, recognition maybe, though they'd never met before. Or perhaps it was simply the same loneliness she felt, reflected back at her. He smiled. Not the practiced, polite smile she'd seen all night, but something genuine that reached his eyes and made her breath catch. Before Maya could second-guess herself, before that voice of doubt could stop her, she found her feet carrying her toward him. Hiding from the crowd? Maya asked as she approached, her voice somehow steady despite the way her pulse was racing. He turned fully toward her, and up close he was even more devastating. She could see the faint stubble along his jaw, the small scar near his left eyebrow, the way his eyes crinkled slightly at the corners when he smiled. "Is it that obvious?" he asked, his voice deep and warm with a hint of amusement. "Only to someone who's doing the same thing," Maya admitted. He laughed, and the sound did something strange to her insides. "I'm Daniel," he said, extending his hand. "Maya." His hand was warm, his grip firm, and when their skin touched she felt a jolt of electricity that was absolutely ridiculous and completely undeniable. They stood there for a moment, hands clasped, and Maya was suddenly aware of how long they'd been touching, how neither of them had pulled away. "So Maya," Daniel said, finally releasing her hand, though his eyes never left hers. "What brings you to Lagos's most boring charity gala?" "Boring?" Maya raised an eyebrow. "Are you always this blunt about events you attend?" "Only when they deserve it," he said with a grin. "Don't get me wrong, it's for a good cause. But if I have to hear one more person brag about their yacht or their vacation home in Dubai, I might actually jump out that window." Maya laughed, surprised by his honesty. Everyone else here seemed so polished, so careful with their words. Daniel's directness was refreshing. "I'm here to network," she admitted. "I'm a graphic designer, and I heard there might be opportunities here tonight." Something flickered in his expression. Interest, maybe, or approval. "A designer? What kind of work do you do?" And just like that, they were talking. Really talking. Not the superficial small talk she'd endured all night, but genuine conversation. Maya found herself telling him about her work, her passion for creating visual stories that connected with people on an emotional level. He listened with an attention that made her feel like she was the only person in the room. "You really love what you do," he observed. "I do," Maya said, then added more quietly, "when I get the chance to do it. The industry here can be challenging. If you don't have connections or come from the right family, it's hard to get your foot in the door." "That's bullshit," Daniel said bluntly, and Maya blinked at his vehemence. "Talent should matter more than connections. If you're good at what you do, that should be enough." "In an ideal world, maybe," Maya said. "But we don't live in an ideal world." "No," he agreed, something dark passing over his face. "We don't." There was a story there, Maya could tell. Pain behind those words. But before she could ask, a woman in a stunning red dress approached them. "Daniel, darling, there you are. I've been looking everywhere for you. The Johnsons want to discuss the Abuja project." Daniel's entire demeanor changed. The warmth in his expression cooled, his shoulders tensing almost imperceptibly. "Tell them I'll find them in a moment, Victoria." The woman, Victoria, turned her assessing gaze on Maya, her smile not quite reaching her eyes. "And who might this be?" "A friend," Daniel said shortly, in a tone that clearly indicated the conversation was over. Victoria's smile tightened, but she nodded and glided away. Maya noticed several people watching their interaction, whispering behind champagne flutes. "I should let you get back to your business," Maya said, taking a step back. She'd been monopolizing his time, lost in their conversation, forgetting that someone like him probably had 100 more important people to talk to. "Don't," Daniel said, catching her wrist. The touch was gentle, but it stopped her in her tracks. "Don't go. Please. You're the first person tonight who's talked to me like I'm an actual human being instead of a walking checkbook." "I don't even know what you do," Maya pointed out. He studied her for a long moment, and she could see him weighing something in his mind. "What if I told you I wanted to keep it that way? Just for tonight? Can we be two people having a conversation at a party, without titles or expectations?" There was something vulnerable in his voice, a plea that she understood on a bone-deep level. How many times had she wished people could see her work before they knew she came from a struggling family, before they made assumptions about what she was worth? "I'd like that," Maya said softly. Daniel's smile returned, brighter than before. "Good. Now, how about we get out of here?" "What?" Maya's eyes widened. "But your meeting can wait," he finished. "Or better yet, they can realize I'm not at their beck and call. Come on. There's a restaurant a few blocks from here. Best suya in Lagos. Have you eaten?" Maya's stomach chose that moment to rumble, reminding her that she'd been too nervous to eat before the gala. Daniel laughed, and she found herself laughing too. "I'll take that as a no. Come on, Maya. Let me buy you dinner. Just two people, no expectations. What do you say?" She should say no. Should thank him for the conversation and find someone from Morrison Tech to pitch to. Should stick to the plan, stay focused on why she came here. But when was the last time she'd done something spontaneous? Something just for herself? "Okay," she said. "Let's go." The suya spot was everything Daniel had promised. A small, unassuming place tucked between two larger buildings, with plastic chairs and tables set up under string lights. It was the complete opposite of the glittering gala they'd just left, and Maya loved it immediately. "This is your idea of dinner?" she teased as they settled into their seats. "What?" You were expecting some pretentious five-star restaurant with tiny portions and a wine list thicker than a phone book. Daniel grinned. This is real food, Maya. Trust me. When the suya arrived, perfectly grilled meat with the right amount of spice, served with fresh tomatoes and onions, Maya had to admit he was right. It was delicious. Okay, you win, she said around a mouthful. This is amazing. Told you. Daniel looked pleased with himself. My mother used to bring me here when I was a kid. Before. He trailed off, his expression darkening. Before what? Maya asked gently. He was quiet for a moment, and she thought he might not answer. But then he said, before everything changed. Before my father's company took off, and we moved to a bigger house, and suddenly we were too good for places like this. The bitterness in his voice was palpable. My mother never forgot, though. She'd sneak out sometimes, bring me here. It was our secret. She sounds like a good woman, Maya said. She was. The past tense hit Maya like a punch. She passed away 3 years ago. Cancer. I'm so sorry, Maya said, reaching across the table to touch his hand. Daniel turned his hand over, lacing his fingers through hers. Thank you. What about you? You mentioned family earlier. So Maya told him. About her mother's diabetes, the mounting medical bills. About her younger brother, Samuel, who was brilliant with numbers and dreamed of becoming an engineer, but might have to drop out of school because they couldn't afford the fees. About her father, who'd left when she was 12, sending occasional money but never enough, never consistent. I'm the oldest, she explained. It's my job to hold everything together. But some days I feel like I'm drowning, and no matter how hard I swim, I can't quite reach the surface. That's a lot of pressure for one person, Daniel said quietly. It's what family does, Maya said with a shrug, though her eyes were bright with unshed tears. You take care of each other. Not all families, Daniel said, his voice hard. Some families see each other as assets. Pieces on a chessboard to be moved around for maximum advantage. Is that what your family does? Maya asked. Let's not talk about my family, Daniel said, his thumb stroking over her knuckles. Or jobs, or money, or any of it. Let's just be here. In this moment. 2 people enjoying great food and even better company. So they did. They talked about everything and nothing. Favorite movies, worst childhood haircuts, the weirdest dreams they'd ever had. Maya told him about the time she'd accidentally dyed her hair green, trying to achieve a purple ombre. Daniel confessed that he'd been terrified of dogs until he was 15, when his mother had forced him to pet their neighbor's Labrador. The hours slipped by like minutes. The restaurant began to empty around them, but neither wanted to leave. There was something magic about this night, this connection that felt too rare and precious to end. I don't want this night to be over, Daniel admitted as they finally stood to leave, the restaurant owner politely indicating they were closing. Maya's heart hammered in her chest. Me neither. They stood outside the restaurant, the Lagos night alive around them. Traffic sounds, distant music, the eternal pulse of the city. Daniel moved closer, his hands coming up to cup her face. Tell me I'm not crazy, he murmured. Tell me you feel this too. You're not crazy, Maya whispered. I feel it. I have a suite at the Eco, he said, his voice rough. Come back with me. Not 4. I mean, we don't have to. I just don't want to say goodbye yet. Maya knew she should say no. Knew that nothing good came from going back to a hotel room with a man she'd just met, no matter how incredible their connection felt. But when was the last time she'd let herself want something? When was the last time she'd done something reckless and spontaneous and purely for the joy of it? Okay, she breathed. Let's go. Maya woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the warm weight of an arm around her waist. For a moment, she was disoriented, her sleep-fogged brain trying to piece together where she was. Then it all came rushing back. The gala. Daniel. The restaurant. Coming back to his suite where they'd talked for hours more. The conversation gradually giving way to heated kisses, to whispered confessions, to hands exploring and bodies pressing together in a tangle of sheets and desire. She could feel him behind her now, his breath warm against her neck, still asleep. Maya carefully turned in his arms, studying his face in the morning light. He looked younger in sleep, the lines of stress smoothed away. There was something almost vulnerable about him like this, and Maya felt her heart clench with an emotion she had no right to be feeling for someone she'd just met. What had she done? Panic began to seep in, cold and insistent. This wasn't her. She didn't do one-night stands. Didn't sleep with men whose last names she barely knew. Didn't. Daniel's eyes fluttered open, and when they focused on her, a slow, devastating smile spread across his face. "Morning," he murmured, his voice sleep-rough in a way that sent shivers down her spine. "Morning," Maya managed, suddenly very aware that she was naked under these sheets, that he was naked, that this was real and not some fever dream. "Regrets?" he asked softly, his hand coming up to tuck a strand of hair behind her ear. Maya searched herself honestly. "I don't know yet," she admitted. "Ask me in a few hours when reality sets in." Daniel laughed, then pulled her closer, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "Fair enough. How about breakfast first? Room service makes incredible pancakes. It would be so easy to stay." To let herself pretend for a few more hours that she was the kind of woman who belonged in places like this, with men like him. But Maya had never been good at pretending. "I should go," she said, pulling back. "I have work tomorrow, and I need to." "Maya!" Daniel caught her hand. "Don't run. Please. At least let me get your number. Let me take you to dinner again. A real date, not just an impulsive night." Maya's heart ached. "Daniel, I had an amazing time last night. Truly. But we both know this can't. We're from different worlds." "Last night was." "Was what?" he interrupted, something almost desperate in his voice. "A mistake? Because it didn't feel like a mistake to me. It felt like the first real thing I've experienced in years." "It felt that way to me too," Maya said, tears pricking her eyes. "But feelings aren't enough. You'll go back to your life, I'll go back to mine, and in a week you'll barely remember my name." "You're wrong," Daniel said fiercely. "Maya, I don't know what this is between us, but I know it's not nothing. Give me a chance. Give us a chance." Maya wanted to. God, she wanted to so badly it physically hurt. But she'd watched enough movies, read enough stories. She knew how these things ended. The girl from the wrong side of town falls for the rich guy, only to get her heart shattered when reality intrudes. "I can't," she whispered. "I'm sorry." She pulled away before he could stop her, gathering her clothes from where they'd been scattered across the floor. Daniel watched her dress, his expression unreadable. "At least tell me your last name," he said. "Let me find you again." Maya paused at the door, her hand on the handle. Every instinct screamed at her to tell him, to give him a way to reach her. But the louder voice, the practical one, the one that had kept her safe all these years, told her to protect herself. "Goodbye, Daniel," she said softly and walked out the door. The next 3 weeks were hell. Maya threw herself into work, trying to forget storm-gray eyes and a smile that made her heart race. But Daniel was everywhere, in her dreams, in her thoughts, in the phantom sensation of his hands on her skin. She'd made the right choice, she told herself repeatedly. One incredible night didn't mean anything in the real world. She had responsibilities, bills to pay, a family depending on her. She couldn't afford to get lost in fantasies about a man she'd never see again. Except she did see him. Everywhere. His face stared at her from a magazine cover at the newsstand. Daniel Morrison, Lagos's most eligible bachelor. Her blood turned to ice as she bought the magazine with shaking hands, reading the article in growing horror. Daniel Morrison, CEO of Morrison Tech Industries, one of the wealthiest men in Nigeria. The article detailed his business empire, his philanthropy, his carefully managed public image. There were pictures of him at various events, always with a beautiful woman on his arm, though the article noted he was notoriously private about his personal life. Maya felt sick. No wonder he'd wanted to remain anonymous. He probably played this game all the time, slumming it with normal girls, pretending to be regular, then disappearing back to his billionaire life. Except that didn't match the man she'd spent that night with. The vulnerability in his eyes when he talked about his mother. The genuine connection she'd felt. Unless she'd been completely wrong about all of it. Earth to Maya. Zara's voice cut through her spiral. "Did you hear anything I just said?" They were in their apartment. Maya supposedly working on a freelance project while Zara cooked dinner. But Maya had been staring at the same design for an hour, her concentration shot. "Sorry," Maya muttered. "What were you saying?" "I was asking if anything came of the gala," Zara said, giving her a concerned look. "You've been weird ever since that night. Did something happen?" Maya had told Zara she'd left early, not feeling well. She hadn't mentioned Daniel, hadn't mentioned any of it. How could she explain something she didn't understand herself? "Nothing happened," Maya lied. "It just wasn't my scene." Zara didn't look convinced, but she dropped it. "Well, there's a follow-up event next week. Morrison Tech is hosting a pitch session for their rebranding project. This is your chance, Maya. You have to submit a portfolio. Maya's heart stopped. Morrison Tech? Yeah, the huge tech company. Their CEO is supposed to be this brilliant but brutal businessman. Apparently, he tears through design teams like tissue paper. But if you could land a contract with them. Zara whistled. That would change everything. I can't, Maya said quickly. I'm not interested. Not interested? Maya, this is exactly the opportunity you've been waiting for. I said no, Zara. Maya snapped, then immediately felt guilty at her friend's hurt expression. I'm sorry. I can't. Please drop it. But fate, it seemed, had other plans. Maya's phone buzzed with an unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Maya Thompson? An efficient female voice came through the line. Yes. This is Rebecca Cole from Morrison Tech Industries. We're calling regarding your portfolio submission for our rebranding project. Maya's mind went blank. I'm sorry, there must be some mistake. I didn't submit. Your work was referred to us by one of our board members who saw your portfolio at the charity gala last month. We'd like to invite you to pitch your concepts to our team. Would you be available Thursday at 2 p.m.? This couldn't be happening. Can I ask who referred my work? A pause. I'm afraid that information is confidential. Will Thursday work for you, Ms. Thompson? No, she should say no, should hang up and forget this whole thing. But her mouth said, yes. Thursday at 2 p.m. Excellent. I'll send you the details via email. Mr. Morrison is very particular about his meetings, so please arrive 15 minutes early. Have a good day. The line went dead. Maya stared at her phone, her heart pounding. Mr. Morrison. Of course. She was going to have to see him again. In a professional setting. Pretend they'd never met before, never shared that night. She wanted to throw up. Thursday arrived far too quickly. Maya stood outside Morrison Tech's gleaming office building in Victoria Island, trying to calm her racing heart. She'd barely slept the past 2 nights, rehearsing what she'd say, how she'd act. Professional. Cool. Distant. As if they were complete strangers. The lobby was all glass and steel, aggressively modern. Maya gave her name to the receptionist, a sleek woman who looked like she'd stepped out of a fashion magazine. 15th floor. Ms. Cole will meet you there. The elevator ride-up felt like climbing to her execution. When the doors opened, Rebecca Cole was waiting, a woman in her 40s with sharp eyes and an even sharper suit. Ms. Thompson. Right on time. I appreciate punctuality. She shook Maya's hand with a grip that could crack walnuts. Follow me. They walked through an office space that looked like something from a tech magazine spread. Open concept, with creative workspaces and what looked like an actual coffee bar in the corner. Young, hip employees typed away at sleek computers, and Maya felt desperately out of place in her modest blazer and pants. You'll be presenting to Mr. Morrison directly, Rebecca said as they approached a conference room. He personally reviews all major projects. I should warn you, he's turned down 15 design proposals already. He knows exactly what he wants, even if he can't articulate it. Your job is to show him what he doesn't know he needs. Great. No pressure. Rebecca opened the conference room door, and Maya's stomach dropped. Daniel sat at the head of a long table, his attention focused on a document in front of him. He looked different from the man she'd spent that night with, harder, more remote in a crisp charcoal suit. This was the billionaire CEO, not the vulnerable man who'd talked about missing his mother. Mr. Morrison, Maya Thompson is here for the 2 p.m. pitch. Daniel looked up and their eyes met. Maya watched the recognition hit him, saw his expression shift through surprise, confusion, and something that might have been hurt before smoothing into professional neutrality. Ms. Thompson. His voice was cool, polite, giving nothing away. Please have a seat. Maya's legs felt like jelly as she crossed to the chair Rebecca indicated. 2 other people sat at the table, a man and woman in their 30s, watching her with evaluating expressions. The Morrison Tech team, presumably. I'll leave you to it, Rebecca said, and suddenly Maya was alone with Daniel and his colleagues. So, Ms. Thompson, Daniel said, his tone perfectly professional. Tell us about your vision for Morrison Tech's rebrand. Maya forced herself to focus, to push aside the riot of emotions and do what she came here to do. She'd worked for 3 days straight on this presentation, barely sleeping, pouring everything into creating something that would blow them away. She connected her laptop to the projector with shaking hands and began. Morrison Tech is one of Nigeria's most successful companies, she started, her voice gaining strength as she fell into the familiar rhythm of a pitch. But success isn't the same as connection. Your current branding is professional, competent, trustworthy. But it's also cold. Generic. It could be any tech company anywhere in the world. She pulled up her first concept, a bold, vibrant design that incorporated traditional Nigerian patterns with sleek modern elements. What if Morrison Tech wasn't just another tech company? What if it was the tech company that bridges tradition and innovation, that celebrates Nigerian creativity while pushing technological boundaries? That makes technology feel human, accessible, exciting. She walked them through her concepts, explaining her choices, the psychology behind each color and shape. She'd done her research, found Morrison Tech's mission statement about making technology accessible to everyday Nigerians, and built her entire proposal around that vision. The two other executives were nodding, making notes, asking questions. But Maya couldn't look away from Daniel. He sat perfectly still, his expression unreadable, those storm-gray eyes fixed on her with an intensity that made her skin burn. "These are interesting concepts," the woman, introduced as Sarah, head of marketing, said when Maya finished. "Fresh. Different from anything else we've seen. What made you choose this direction?" "Because technology shouldn't feel foreign," Maya said. "It should feel like coming home. And Morrison Tech has the opportunity to lead that shift, to show that innovation doesn't mean abandoning our roots." "I love it," the man, David, Chief Operating Officer, said. "It's exactly the fresh perspective we need." "Mr. Morrison?" Sarah turned to Daniel. "What do you think?" Daniel was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was carefully controlled. "Ms. Thompson's work is certainly impactful. Her vision is clear. I'd like to see a more detailed proposal, including timeline and budget." "Of course," Maya managed. "David, Sarah, thank you for your time. I'd like to speak with Ms. Thompson privately about some specifics." The two executives exchanged glances but stood, gathering their materials. "We'll be in my office if you need us," Sarah said. Then they were gone, and Maya was alone with Daniel for the first time since that morning 3 weeks ago. The silence stretched between them, taut as a wire. "So," Daniel finally said, his voice low and dangerous. "Maya Thompson. At least now I know your last name." "Daniel, you ran." He stood, moving around the table toward her. "You walked out without a word, without a way for me to find you. Do you have any idea what the past 3 weeks have been like? I've had investigators searching for you. Every Maya in Lagos. Every graphic designer. I was starting to think I'd imagined you." "I'm sorry," Maya whispered. "I didn't think." "You didn't think what? That I'd want to see you again?" That one night meant something to me. He was close now, close enough that she could smell his cologne, see the fine lines of tension around his eyes. "Or did you just decide that I was some rich playboy and you were better off forgetting me?" "I saw the magazine article," Maya admitted. "You're Daniel Morrison. The Daniel Morrison. And I'm just me, a struggling designer from Acadia. We don't make sense. So you made that decision for both of us?" Daniel's voice was harsh. "Didn't even give me a chance to." "What, Maya?" "To what? Be with you? Get to know you properly? Fall for you?" Maya's breath caught. "You don't even know me." "I know enough," Daniel said, his voice dropping to something raw and honest. "I know that you work yourself to exhaustion to take care of your family. I know that you light up when you talk about design, like it's not just a job but a calling. I know that you have this way of seeing the world that's both pragmatic and beautiful. I know that you made me laugh more in one night than I have in 3 years. And I know that when you left, you took something with me that I didn't even know I was missing until it was gone." Maya felt tears burning behind her eyes. "Daniel, this is crazy. We barely know each other. One night doesn't." "Then let's make it more than one night," he interrupted, reaching for her hands. "Go to dinner with me. Let me take you out properly. No secrets this time. No pretending to be people we're not. Just us, figuring this out together." "And when it ends badly?" Maya asked, her voice breaking. "When reality crashes in, and we realize we're from completely different worlds. When your family and friends remind you that you're supposed to be with someone from your own social class. What then?" "Then we deal with it," Daniel said fiercely. "Together. But Maya, don't we owe it to ourselves to at least try? What we felt that night, don't tell me you've forgotten it. Don't tell me you haven't thought about me every day since." She had. God, she had. Every morning she woke up reaching for him. Every night she fell asleep remembering the way he'd held her, the way he'd looked at her like she was precious. "I think about you constantly," she admitted, tears finally spilling over. But Daniel, I'm scared. I've spent my whole life being practical, being responsible. I don't know how to do this reckless, impulsive thing. Then learn, he said, wiping away her tears with his thumbs. Learn with me. I don't know how to do this either, Maya. I've dated plenty of women, the right women from the right families. And every single one of them left me feeling empty. But you? You make me feel alive. Real. Like I'm not just Daniel Morrison, CEO and heir to a tech empire, but just Daniel. A man who wants to know everything about you. Who wants to wake up next to you and learn how you take your coffee. Who wants to meet your brother and hear about his engineering dreams. Who wants to be there when you get frustrated with a design and talk you through it. All of it, Maya. I want all of it. The job, Maya said suddenly, stepping back. Is that what this is about? You're offering me the contract because of what happened between us. Daniel's expression hardened. Your work stands on its own merit. You earned this opportunity, Maya. But I'd be lying if I said I didn't push Rebecca to track you down after I saw your portfolio at the gala. I've been searching for you for weeks. When I recognized your style in the submissions we received, I knew it was you. You manipulated this whole thing, Maya said, anger rising through her confusion and hurt. I created an opportunity for us to see each other again, yes, Daniel admitted. But the contract is real, Maya. Your designs are exactly what Morrison Tech needs. If you walked out of here right now and I never saw you again, I'd still want to hire you. Because you're talented. Because your vision is brilliant. Because you understand what I've been trying to articulate for months and couldn't. Maya wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe that this could work. That somehow they could bridge the impossible gap between their worlds. I need time, she said finally. To think. To process all of this. Daniel's jaw tightened, but he nodded. Okay, take your time. But Maya? He caught her hand as she turned to leave. I'm not giving up on this. On us. I'll wait as long as you need, but I'm not walking away. Maya spent the next few days in a fog of confusion. She'd told Zara everything, finally, and her friend had oscillated between excitement. You slept with Daniel Morrison? And concern. Babe, this is complicated as hell. The contract offer came through officially 2 days after her presentation. A 6-month project with a budget that made Maya's head spin. It was enough to pay off her mother's medical bills, cover Samuel's school fees for the next 2 years, and still have money left over. It was life-changing, game-changing. And it was from the man she couldn't stop thinking about, couldn't stop wanting, couldn't figure out how to fit into her life. You have to take it, Zara said as they sat in their living room, the contract spread out on the coffee table. Maya, this is literally everything you've been working toward. But it feels wrong, Maya argued. Like I'm only getting it because of us. Whatever we are. Did you or did you not create an amazing proposal that knocked their socks off? I did, but. No buts. You earned this. And if Daniel Morrison happens to also be into you, that's a bonus, not a disqualifier. Zara leaned forward. Look, I get that you're scared. This is big and overwhelming and way outside your comfort zone. But when are you going to let yourself have something good? When are you going to stop punishing yourself for wanting more than just survival? Maya's phone buzzed. Another message from Daniel. He'd been texting her daily, nothing pushy, just small things. A funny meme. A picture of Suya with the caption, thinking of you. A song recommendation. He was courting her, she realized. Old-fashioned, persistent courting. This one was a photo of a sunset from what looked like his office window. The message read, "The view is better when I imagine sharing it with you." Her heart clenched. He's really trying, Zara observed, reading over her shoulder. I know, Maya whispered. So what are you going to do? Maya looked at the contract, then at her phone, then at her friend. I'm going to accept the job. And I'm going to tell him I need us to keep things professional until the project is done. If there's still something between us after 6 months, when I'm not his employee anymore, then we can explore it. Zara nodded slowly. That's very mature and responsible of you. I hate it, but I get it. Maya laughed despite herself. When did I become the boring, practical one in this friendship? Babe, you've always been the boring, practical one. That's why you need a billionaire to sweep you off your feet and teach you how to live a little. Maya called Daniel that evening, her palms sweating as the phone rang. Maya. His voice was warm, hopeful. I was starting to think you were going to make me wait the full week. I'm accepting the contract, she said without preamble. That's wonderful. But I need us to be professional, she continued. No dates, no personal relationship, Nothing that could compromise the work or make people think I got this job because of anything other than merit. When the project is done, if we still want to explore this, we can. But not now. Not while I'm working for you. The silence on the other end of the line stretched so long that Maya thought he might have hung up. Daniel, I'm here. His voice was tight. I don't like it, but I understand. And I respect your decision. 6 months. 6 months, Maya confirmed. Okay. But Maya, I'm not going to make this easy on you. I'm going to work with you every day. I'm going to watch you create and think and bring your brilliant mind to my company. And every single day, you're going to be reminded of what you're making us wait for. A shiver ran down Maya's spine at the promise in his voice. Is that a threat or a promise? Both, Daniel said, and she could hear the smile in his voice. Welcome to Morrison Tech, Miss Thompson. I look forward to working with you. If Maya thought keeping things professional with Daniel would be easy, she was spectacularly wrong. She started at Morrison Tech the following Monday, set up with a sleek office and a team of junior designers who looked at her with a mixture of curiosity and skepticism. She was young to be heading up such a major project, and she knew office gossip was already churning about how she'd landed the contract. Daniel, to his credit, kept his distance for the first week. They communicated through emails and official meetings with the full team present. Professional. Cordial. Absolutely nothing to suggest they'd ever been anything more than business associates. But Maya felt his presence constantly. The way his eyes would linger on her during presentations. The way he'd lean slightly closer when reviewing designs, close enough that she could smell his cologne, feel the warmth radiating from his body. The small, almost unconscious gestures, a hand at the small of her back guiding her through a doorway, fingers brushing as he handed her a coffee, the way he said her name like it was something precious. It was torture. He's totally into you, whispered Chioma, one of the junior designers, during a break. Mr. Morrison never attends the weekly design reviews, but he's been at every single one since you started. He's just invested in the project, Maya said weakly. Chioma laughed. Girl, the way that man looks at you is not about project investment. That's a man who wants to. Chioma, Maya interrupted, her cheeks burning. Please. It's not like that. But it was like that. And everyone could see it. The real test came 3 weeks into the project. Maya was working late, the office mostly empty as she refined a particularly tricky element of the rebrand. She was so absorbed in her work that she didn't hear the office door open. You're still here. Maya jumped, her hand flying to her chest. Daniel stood in the doorway, his tie loosened, hair slightly mussed like he'd been running his hands through it. He looked tired, but somehow more real than the polished CEO she saw during business hours. Jesus, you scared me, she breathed. What are you doing here? It's almost 9 p.m. I could ask you the same thing. He moved into the office, closing the door behind him. Maya, you need to go home. You've been working 12-hour days all week. Says the man who's also here at 9 p.m., she countered. I own the company. I'm allowed to be a workaholic. He perched on the edge of her desk, too close, violating the professional distance they'd carefully maintained. You, on the other hand, are going to burn out at this rate. I'm fine, Maya insisted, but even she could hear the exhaustion in her voice. Daniel reached out, and before she could stop him, his fingers were tucking a loose strand of hair behind her ear. The same gesture he'd made that first morning. The touch sent electricity through her body, and she saw his eyes darken as he felt her response. Don't, she whispered, but she didn't pull away. Don't what? His voice was low, intimate. Don't worry about you? Don't notice that you're working yourself to death? Don't want to drag you into my arms and kiss you until you forget every rule you made us follow. Daniel. His name came out pleading. We agreed. We agreed to be professional. And I've been so goddamn professional it's killing me, Maya. But right now, after hours in this empty office, can we just be honest? This is torture. Being near you every day and not being able to touch you, talk to you, really talk to you like we did that night. It's driving me insane. It's driving me insane too, Maya admitted, her resolve crumbling. But Daniel, we can't. If people think. I don't care what people think, he said fiercely. I care about you. About us. Maya, these past few weeks working with you have only made me more certain. You're brilliant. Talented. You challenge me, make me think differently, make me want to be better. And every single night I go home alone and remember what it felt like to hold you, and I want to break things. Maya stood abruptly, putting distance between them even though every cell in her body screamed to close the gap. 4.5 months, she said. That's all we have left. We can do this, Daniel. We can wait. Can we? He stood too, prowling toward her with an intensity that made her breath catch. Because I'm not sure I can. I'm not sure I can spend another day pretending you're just an employee, just a designer, just anything other than the woman I can't stop thinking about. He was close now, so close that she could see the gold flecks in his gray eyes, could count each individual eyelash. His hand came up to cup her cheek, and Maya's eyes fluttered closed at the contact. Tell me to stop, he murmured, his lips hovering inches from hers. Tell me to walk away and I will. But Maya, if you don't say something in the next 5 seconds, I'm going to kiss you, and I'm not going to stop with just a kiss. Maya's brain screamed at her to step back, to maintain the boundaries she'd so carefully constructed. But her heart, her body, every part of her that had been aching for him since that night, won out. Don't stop, she breathed. Daniel's control shattered. His mouth crashed onto hers with a hunger that stole her breath, his hands pulling her against him as she melted into his embrace. This wasn't the tentative exploration of their first kiss. This was fire and desperation, weeks of pent-up longing exploding between them. Maya's hands tangled in his hair as he lifted her onto the desk, stepping between her legs, his mouth never leaving hers. Files and papers scattered to the floor, forgotten. His hands roamed her body, her waist, her hips, sliding up to cup her face then tangling in her hair. I've missed you, he growled against her lips. God, Maya, I've missed you so much. We saw each other this afternoon, she gasped as his mouth traveled down her neck, finding that spot just below her ear that made her shiver. Not like this. Not really. His hands found the buttons of her blouse, and she didn't stop him as he slowly, deliberately began to undo them. Not where I could touch you, taste you, show you what you do to me. Maya knew they should stop. Knew they were in his office building where anyone could walk in, where security cameras might be recording, where this could become exactly the kind of scandal she'd been trying to avoid. But she couldn't bring herself to care. Not when his hands were on her skin, not when his mouth was doing sinful things to her collarbone, not when being with him felt more right than any decision she'd ever made. Daniel, she moaned as his hand slid up her thigh. We can't, not here. My apartment is 10 minutes away, he said, pulling back just enough to meet her eyes. His pupils were blown wide with desire, his breathing ragged. Come home with me, Maya. Let me make love to you properly, in a bed, where I can take my time and worship every inch of you the way I've been dreaming about for weeks. It was a terrible idea, reckless and impulsive, and everything she'd promised herself she wouldn't do. Yes, she heard herself say. Take me home. They barely made it through Daniel's apartment door before they were tearing at each other's clothes. It was frantic, desperate, nothing like the slow, exploratory intimacy of their first night. This was need pure and simple, weeks of denial finally breaking free. Daniel backed her against the wall, his mouth never leaving hers as he lifted her, her legs wrapping around his waist. Maya had a vague impression of expensive furnishings and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Lagos skyline, but she couldn't focus on anything except the man holding her, the way his body felt pressed against hers, the way he was looking at her like she was everything he'd ever wanted. Bedroom, she managed to gasp out. Too far, Daniel growled, carrying her to the nearby couch instead. They fell onto the plush cushions in a tangle of limbs and half-removed clothing. Daniel's shirt was open, Maya's blouse completely undone. His hands mapped her body with a reverence that made her feel cherished and desired all at once. You're so beautiful, he murmured against her skin, his lips trailing down her stomach. So perfect. I don't deserve you. Daniel, Maya whimpered, her hands fisting in his hair as his mouth moved lower. Please. Please what? He looked up at her, his eyes dark with hunger. Tell me what you want, Maya. I need to hear you say it. You, she breathed. I want you. All of you. Now. Something possessive flashed in his eyes. And then he was moving back up her body, capturing her mouth in a searing kiss as he finally gave them both what they needed. Later, they lay tangled together on Daniel's massive bed. They'd made it there eventually, sometime in the early morning hours. Maya's head rested on his chest, her fingers tracing idle patterns on his skin as his hand stroked through her hair. We're terrible at following rules, Maya murmured. She felt Daniel's chest rumble with quiet laughter. The absolute worst. My compliance team would be appalled. What are we going to do? Maya asked, tilting her head to look up at him. We can't keep this secret. People will figure it out. Daniel was quiet for a moment, his hand continuing its soothing motion through her hair. What if we didn't keep it secret? Maya's heart skipped. Daniel, hear me out. He shifted so they were facing each other, his expression serious. You're right that people will figure it out eventually. So why don't we control the narrative? We acknowledge that we're seeing each other, but we're also clear that your contract was earned on merit. We make sure everyone knows that your position is secure regardless of our personal relationship. People will still talk, Maya said. They'll still assume I'm sleeping my way to success. Let them talk, Daniel said fiercely. You and I will know the truth. Anyone who matters will see your incredible work and recognize your talent. And anyone who doesn't, they can go to hell. Maya wanted to believe it could be that simple. But she'd spent enough time in Lagos to know how these things worked. Your family, she said. Your board of directors. They're not going to be happy about you dating an employee. Especially not one like me. One like you. Daniel's voice sharpened. What does that mean? You know what it means, Maya said quietly. I'm not from your world, Daniel. I don't have the right connections, the right background. I'm sure your family has plans for you. Some suitable woman from an appropriate family. My father's been dead for 5 years, Daniel said bluntly. And if he were alive, I still wouldn't give a damn about his opinion. Morrison Tech is mine. My life is mine. And I choose you, Maya. If you'll have me. It was everything she wanted to hear. So why did it still feel so scary? I need to think, she said finally. This is all happening so fast. Can we just slow down? Take it one day at a time. Daniel's jaw tightened, but he nodded. One day at a time. But Maya, I'm not going anywhere. I'm all in on this. I just need you to be brave enough to be all in too. The next few weeks fell into a pattern. During work hours, they maintained professional boundaries, mostly. But after hours, Maya would go to Daniel's apartment, and they would spend nights talking, laughing, making love until the early morning hours. It was intoxicating, addictive, everything Maya had never known she was missing. She met his friends, other CEOs and entrepreneurs who were surprisingly warm and welcoming. She learned about his charity work, his passion for making technology accessible to rural communities, his complicated relationship with the legacy his father had left him. He was brilliant, Daniel told her one night as they lay tangled in his sheets. But he was also ruthless. He saw people as assets, relationships as transactions. My mother tried to temper that in me, but after she died, he trailed off, his expression dark. You became like him? Maya guessed. I tried not to. But it's hard, when everyone expects you to be him. When the company culture he built demands that kind of ruthlessness to survive. He pulled her closer. And then I met you. And suddenly I remembered what it felt like to want something just because it made me happy. Not because it was strategic or beneficial to the company, but just because it felt right. I make you happy? Maya asked softly. You make me more than happy, Daniel said, kissing her forehead. You make me feel human again. But their bubble of happiness couldn't last forever. It popped spectacularly one Monday morning when Maya walked into her office to find a woman waiting for her. She was stunning, tall, elegant, dressed in a designer suit that probably cost more than Maya's monthly salary. Her smile was cold as ice. You must be Maya Thompson, the woman said, extending a perfectly manicured hand. I'm Victoria Chin, Daniel's fiancée. The world tilted. Fiancée? Maya's voice came out strangled. Well, ex-fiancée technically, Victoria said with a dismissive wave. We broke up 6 months ago, but these things are always temporary. Daniel and I have been on again, off again since university. We always find our way back to each other. Maya's mind raced. Daniel had never mentioned to Victoria. Never mentioned any serious relationship at all. What do you want? Maya managed to ask. Victoria's smile widened, showing too many teeth. I wanted to see the latest distraction for myself. I have to admit, you're not his usual type. But Daniel does love his little charity projects. The words hit like a slap. Get out of my office. Oh, I'm going, Victoria said, heading for the door. She paused at the threshold, looking back with mock sympathy. Just a word of advice, darling. Don't get too comfortable. Daniel Morrison doesn't end up with girls like you. He ends up with girls like me. Always has, always will. You're just a phase, a rebellion against his responsibilities. When he's done playing, he'll come back to where he belongs. She left Maya standing there, her words echoing in the sudden silence. Maya tried to focus on work, tried to tell herself that Victoria was just a jealous ex trying to stir up trouble. But the seeds of doubt had been planted, and they grew with every passing hour. Daniel hadn't mentioned Victoria. Hadn't mentioned that he had an ex-fiancée who clearly still considered him hers. What else hadn't he told her? When Daniel came by her office that evening, his smile fading as he took in her expression, Maya's composure finally cracked. "Who's Victoria?" she asked without preamble. Daniel went completely still. "How do you know about Victoria?" "She came by to see me. Introduced herself as your fiancé. Or ex-fiancé. Or future fiancé again." She was a little unclear on the details. "Jesus." Daniel dragged a hand through his hair. "Maya, Victoria and I dated years ago. We were never engaged, despite what she might have told people. She's been trying to reconnect since I ended things, but I've made it clear I'm not interested. I should have told you about her, I know, but she's not relevant to us." "She seemed to think she was pretty relevant," Maya said, her voice tight. "She seemed to think you always go back to her. That I'm just a phase." "That's bullshit," Daniel said firmly, crossing to her. "Maya, you're not a phase. You're not a distraction or a charity project or any of the poison Victoria tried to pour in your ear. You're the woman I'm falling in love with." The words should have filled her with joy. Instead, they terrified her. "This is too much," Maya said, stepping back. "Too fast. Daniel, we barely know each other. A few weeks ago, we were trying to keep things professional. Now you're talking about love, and ex-fiancés are showing up at my office, and I can't breathe." "Then let me help you breathe," Daniel pleaded. "Maya, don't let Victoria's games come between us. That's exactly what she wants." "Maybe she's right," Maya said, and she hated the way her voice shook. "Maybe we are from different worlds. Maybe this was never going to work, and we were just too caught up in the fantasy to see it." "Don't do this," Daniel said, his voice rough with emotion. "Don't run again, Maya. Talk to me. Fight with me if you need to, but don't just run." "I need space," Maya said. "I need to think." "How much space?" Daniel asked tightly. "I don't know. A few days? A week? I just need to figure out if this is real or if we're both just caught up in something we want to be real." Daniel looked like she'd punched him. "After everything, after all the nights together, all the conversations, all the ways we've connected, you still don't know if this is real? Do you?" Maya challenged. "Or am I just the exciting distraction from your usual type? The rebellion against expectations? What happens when the novelty wears off and you realize Victoria was right, that you're supposed to end up with someone from your world?" "My world?" Daniel's voice rose in frustration. "Maya, you are my world. These past weeks with you have been the realest, most honest, most fulfilling of my entire life. I don't care what world you come from. I care about who you are, what you stand for, how you make me feel. And if you can't see that, if you really think this is just some passing fancy, then maybe we don't know each other as well as I thought." The words hung between them, heavy with hurt and accusation. "Maybe we don't," Maya whispered. She saw something break in Daniel's expression. For a long moment, he just stared at her, and she could see him wrestling with what to say, how to fix this. Finally, he nodded. "Okay, you want space? You've got it. Take all the time you need to figure out what you want, Maya. But I'm not going to chase you anymore. I've laid everything on the line. My feelings, my intentions, my heart. If that's not enough, if you need to find reasons to doubt us, then I can't stop you." He turned to leave, paused at the door. "For what it's worth, I love you. I think I've loved you since that first night when you looked at me like I was just a man, not a title or a bank account. I love your passion, your dedication, your kindness. I love the way you take care of everyone around you. I love how your mind works, how you see beauty in unexpected places. I love you, Maya Thompson. And I'll be here, waiting, when you figure out if you love me too." Then he was gone, and Maya was alone with her doubts and her fears and the devastating realization that she might have just destroyed the best thing in her life. The next week was hell. Maya threw herself into work, avoiding Daniel as much as possible. When they did have to interact, it was painfully polite, professionally distant. She could see the hurt in his eyes every time they made eye contact, and it killed her. But she'd asked for space, and he was giving it to her. Victoria's words echoed in her head constantly. "Girls like you, charity project, just a phase." Was she being stupid? Naive? Was she setting herself up for a heartbreak that would devastate her? "You look miserable," Chioma observed one afternoon, dropping into the chair across from Maya's desk. "And Mr. Morrison looks even worse. Whatever's going on between you two, fix it." There's nothing going on, Maya lied. Girl, please. Everyone in this building knows you two are together. Or we're together. Or whatever messy situation you're in now. Chioma leaned forward. Look, I'm going to tell you something, and I need you to really hear me. I've worked for Morrison Tech for 3 years. In that time, I've seen Mr. Morrison date a parade of society women. Beautiful, accomplished, from all the right families. And do you know what he looked like with all of them? Bored. Dutiful. Like he was going through the motions. She pointed at Maya. But with you? That man lights up. He smiles. Actually smiles, not that polite grimace he gives at company events. He laughs. He seems happy. Real. Human. So whatever nonsense is in your head about not being good enough or not belonging, get rid of it. Because that man is in love with you, and you're an idiot if you let him go. Maya felt tears pricking her eyes. What if it doesn't work out? What if it does? Chioma countered. What if you're so busy protecting yourself from potential hurt that you miss out on actual happiness? Life's too short for that kind of cowardice, Maya. After Chioma left, Maya sat in her office, staring at her computer screen without really seeing it. Was she being a coward? Was she so afraid of getting hurt that she was sabotaging something real? Her phone buzzed. A text from her mother. How are you, dear? You sounded stressed last time we talked. On impulse, Maya called her. Maya. Her mother's warm voice came through the line. This is a surprise. Is everything okay? Mama, can I ask you something? Of course, my dear. When you met Daddy, how did you know it was real? How did you know he was worth the risk? Her mother was quiet for a moment. Is this about that man you've been seeing? The one you haven't told me about, but I know about anyway because a mother always knows. Despite everything, Maya smiled. Yes, it's about him. Tell me about him, her mother said gently. So Maya did. She told her everything, about meeting Daniel at the gala, about their incredible night together, about the job and the complicated relationship and Victoria's cruel words. She told her mother about her fears, her doubts, the voice in her head that kept insisting this was too good to be true. When she finished, her mother sighed. Maya, my darling girl, you've spent so much of your life taking care of everyone else. Me, Samuel, even your father before he left. You've put your own needs last for so long that now, when something good comes along, you don't know how to accept it. But what if? What if? Her mother interrupted gently. Life is full of what ifs, Maya. What if he breaks your heart? What if it doesn't work out? But also, what if it does? What if you're walking away from the love of your life because you're too scared to be vulnerable? I'm terrified, Maya admitted. Love is terrifying, her mother agreed. It's giving someone the power to destroy you and trusting them not to. But Maya, from everything you've told me, this man, Daniel, he sounds like someone who would treasure that gift, not abuse it. And more importantly, he sounds like someone who makes you happy. Genuinely, deeply happy. Don't you deserve that? I don't know, Maya whispered. Well, I know, her mother said firmly. You deserve all the happiness in the world. You deserve a man who looks at you like you hung the moon. You deserve love, Maya. Real, messy, complicated, beautiful love. So stop hiding from it and go get it. Maya worked late that night, trying to finish the final components of the rebrand. She was so absorbed in her work that she didn't notice the time until her phone buzzed with a message from building security. Ms. Thompson, there's a Victoria Chin here to see you. Should I send her up? Maya's jaw tightened. The last thing she needed right now was another confrontation with Daniel's ex. But maybe it was time to hear what Victoria really wanted. Send her up, Maya texted back. Victoria swept into her office minutes later, looking as polished and perfect as before. But this time, Maya noticed the calculation in her eyes, the brittleness behind the beauty. Working late, Victoria observed. How dedicated. Daniel does appreciate dedication in his employees. What do you want, Victoria? Maya asked tiredly. I'm busy. I came to offer you a deal, Victoria said, settling into the chair across from Maya's desk uninvited.